Good afternoon. Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Thursday, March the 12th. The news is all about coronavirus, and I think the shortest way to put it is the world as we know it has changed pretty dramatically, at least in the short term. It looks like there's been a second case of coronavirus confirmed in Arkansas. This time, according to news reports at Arkansas Children's Hospital, a staff member of some undefined responsibility has tested positive, and that test will be confirmed by the feds, but it seems to be so. We now have a situation where there have been people who've been reported in contact with coronavirus cases in Pine Bluff, at UAPB, University of Arkansas at Monticello, Pulaski Tech, UA Little Rock, Pulaski Academy. This has led to a variety of responses at those institutions, closure of classes for one thing. There are going to be more of those. There's a news conference at 1:45 p.m. today, and I think as an outgrowth of contact with these patients, we're going to hear about public school closings in Arkansas, at least on a temporary basis through March 30th. Benton, Bryant, Bauxite, Pine Bluff, Little Rock, and North Little Rock are said to be affected. They'll be out of regular classes through at least the end of the month. They'll get credit for alternative days. It won't require make-up days later. They'll have to figure out other ways to do the work. This is only the beginning. When sports starts to be affected, you know it's serious in the country. They've canceled the rest of the SEC basketball tournaments. They've canceled all SEC sporting events of any sort for the rest of this year. It's beginning to look like the NCAA basketball tournament won't be held at all. The situation wasn't helped very much last night by Donald Trump and a stumbling, halting performance full of factual errors in a speech to the nation last night. He didn't really seem to have his heart in it, nor his mind. They're going to limit some travel between Europe, but it won't stop the flow of people from infected areas. They are going to keep the markets open for unknown reasons in the United Kingdom, perhaps because Trump has some golf courses there. The market continued to crash today. We still have enormous questions about the lack of sufficient testing in the United States, something that other countries have been able to do a lot more. The Trump administration, Republicans are resisting House legislation proposed by Democrats to cover the cost of testing, to cover sick pay for people who would stay home rather than go to work with a disease and other things. These are called wild-eyed liberal things. They sound like humane things to me. The Republican response seems to be mostly to turn it into politics, to blame it on China, to use racial terms to describe the disease, and to say Joe Biden had long been a friend of China. Tom Cotton closed his office and insists on calling this the Wuhan virus. Nobody else calls it that. No scientific person does. This is clearly a racist appeal to try and build up the notion that somehow China is responsible for all the problems of the world. Joe Biden today said this isn't a disease with partisan labels. It's a global disaster and should be treated that way. Of course, he's correct about this. Well, in other news today, there's not much, although there is another Biden angle. A judge in Independence County has filed an order settling the Hunter Biden child support case. The terms of the agreement were not revealed. They were redacted, but he'll pay monthly child support, cover the cost of health insurance for a child, and also pay some attorney's fees. This will put this to rest, although it doesn't put to rest the Republican effort to make Hunter Biden a proxy for his father Joe in the presidential campaign to help Donald Trump. Interesting reporting from the Chicago Tribune and ProPublica about a mental facility for youths in Arkansas, a private facility, Mill Creek Behavioral, that's in Fordyce, run by Acadia Healthcare, which has been in the news, not good news, for its operation of healthcare facilities in Arkansas before. Stories from Arkansas children who were placed there and talked about mistreatment by staff members and by other people at the facility. They called it a misery mill, and that's certainly what the story describes. The operators of this say you shouldn't just listen to anecdotal evidence from children who've had history of mental health treatment. Perhaps we should, I don't know. And here's a small note. A friend of mine, Sybil Hampton, in Little Rock, keeps me posted on the lives of famous African Americans from Little Rock who've gone on to better things and better places. Charles Long died early in February. You might not know the name. He was a preeminent religious scholar in the United States, teaching at such great institutions as University of Chicago and North Carolina, led the Academy of Religious Scholars in America at one time. Well, the story is he was born in Little Rock and raised at a time when segregation was the law of the land. But he was lucky to be nurtured by some really truly outstanding black intellectuals. Yes, he was a graduate of Dunbar High School, as many famous African Americans were. Went on to be educated after he served in the Army Air Force in World War II. Died at age 93 with a stellar record and admirers all over the country. You might not have heard of him. I had not, I'm embarrassed to say. But he's one of those people. Imagine if we could have nurtured those people and kept them in Arkansas for all these years. What a difference they might have made here. He made a difference nonetheless. Resist the idiocy in the White House. Donald Trump, I mean. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.